Yeah, that's right. The Southern River Band boys, they're off the top. Thanks to the intro music, boys. Hopefully we're not getting copyrighted. We know what they do. They get it done down there in Thornley. You are on the Shelter FootyCast. Mark Reddings, Will Schofield. Happy Easter to everybody. Ski, did you do an Easter egg hunt, mate?
Well, my kids are A, interstate, and B, 22, so probably don't need to go down that path. Okay. But thank you for the good wishes. For the only bloke that I know that doesn't eat chocolate.
I'm just not a chocolate guy, mate. I had a couple of eggs yesterday, and I could still taste it in my mouth. I'm not that guy. I said to you this on air on 6PA yesterday. Put a big bowl of chips in front of me. I'll show you what I do like.
Chicken salt.
Yeah,
no,
correct.
well, I don't like coffee. So people look at me as if I'm a...
alien.
Yes.
I mean, you're not going too well at the moment, are you? Having a little bit of a break from drinking. You don't drink coffee.
No,
what are you getting stuck into at the moment?
I've got a couple of vices left in the locker. Hey, by the way, John Rahm, the Masters champion today, the Green Jackets, second.
So done.
His second major title, fourth Spaniard. Well done to him. Aussie's no good, but he wins by I think 3 or 4.
Is Rahm a liver? Is he a live golfer?
No.
Right.
No, he's not. So
because they were going to storm the fairway.
The PGA obviously.
Phil Mickelson was up there, wasn't he?
Yeah, 52 years of age, had a really good tournament. So yeah, Masters. I'm not a huge golf man, Scully, but that would be one of the great events to go to.
Yeah, it looks like it. They've got some serious tradition there. Like I was reading a big Twitter thread about it. You're not allowed to take chairs that have armrests.
You can't run. You can't run between.
There's no running. They've got specific times you can drink. They don't open the bar until a specific time. You can't film stuff. Like it's very
it's
traditional.
It's old school traditional. And quite interestingly, as part of this FootyCast, we're not talking anything about footy because our 2 teams are crap.
Shelter FootyCast. You can find us on Instagram, Shelter FootyCast over there. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us as a podcast. And that's right, West Australian footy is absolute garbage at the moment. So if you want to let us know about it, FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au or just comment on our YouTube channel and we'll find your questions there. Skeeter, let's get into it. I'm all chocolated out. Let's talk about the footy. There's some big moments in the round. Look, the first one I want to speak about is concussions and the McCartan boys. So I didn't see what happened to Tom, but he was subbed out. But I did see what happened to Paddy. And I got to be honest, it's one of the worst things I've seen on a footy field. Not because... I've seen some big hits. I saw that, that Andrew Gaff Jonas hit. I was in that game. I saw Dan Venables right up and close. That sort of, it wasn't that sort of hit. That's what was so scary about it. Paddy McCartan subbed off on the weekend. I really got grave fears for his footballing future ever. I don't know if he'll ever play again because what happened on the weekend, if you didn't see it, in the Sydney Port Adelaide game, he was in a contest. They hit the ground. He was fine. There was no head contact in the marking contest. They were literally crawling after a ball and he dove, no other player really near him, and he sort of skimmed his head along the ground. Look, I can't talk about how hard he hit the ground, right? But it wasn't a Daniel Venables collision, right? But he was knocked out cold. He then could barely recover. He couldn't walk. He looked like a heavyweight fighter that had gone 10 rounds with Muhammad Ali. He looked cooked. It looked like someone had king hit him. He had the spaghetti legs. He was almost like seizuring. It was really scary, and it was seemingly off nothing. I don't know if he plays again.
Yeah, well, it's a decision I'm sure that not only Paddy's and the whole family have got to make, but also off the back of that, it's his 10th concussion. Now, he has been cleared by neurologists in the past, but the AFL must be really twitchy about this one, given what's happening with the class actions, because if he keeps coming back and playing, I mean, if he comes back and returns to the field now, the AFL is almost entitled to say, listen, there has to be a non-disclosure agreement that you are not going to come back to us in 15 to 20 years, despite the clearance by doctors that you can play. Now, again, we don't know the medical. There was medical clearance for him.
We've spoken about this before, though. You can't have players signing away their rights to... Like, there has to be responsibility on the AFL as well.
So, therefore, they should be able to, I think,
right, put
the foot down and say...
We can't have you playing in
and
this league anymore.
And there's been some Oxford University studies from January 2023, which I was reading this morning, relating to this, suggesting if you have 3 or more concussions, you should not be involved in a collision-based sport. He's up to 10.
Wow.
And we're thinking footy here, and there's other footballers have had numerous concussions. I think of cricket, Will Pekoski.
Yeah,
has had up to 10 to 12
and that's not a contact sport.
No, I mean, but he's been hit in the head by cricket balls, so with a helmet. So and he's stayed out of the game for some time. A bit of mental health involved with that as well. So it's a really big story, this one, as to what happens next, whether the club, the AFL, become involved, and how strongly the medical evidence suggests that he should be looking for a safer option when it comes to sport, and that means not playing AFL.
Yeah, it was a crazy incident, and we're thinking of Paddy and his family and himself and the footy club, and hope for the best in that game as well. We're going to touch on this when we go through the game, a kick after the siren as well. So it was a exciting game there at the SCG. What about Freo and West Coast 1 and 3? We're gonna review the games in a little bit, but overall, not in each game, but West Australian footy. You mentioned it off the top. Both teams are shite. How's everyone feeling, do you think?
No, we're in a funk. There's no question about that. We are in a demise of some description. You think we kicked between the two clubs 19 goals at the weekend. The Dockers are simply struggling to hit the scoreboard, and West Coast, despite a relatively bright start in the first half, they trailed by 4 goals at half time. They're at class.
Yeah, but again, taking away the games, right? I don't want to talk about the games, the actual clubs. So West Coast have this injury list, right? And I said yesterday, I want to have a line in the sand. We've stopped talking about this, but they don't have the available players. Don't know where they were going to get to with those players on the field, but they don't have them anymore. So whether you like it or not, they're going to get a leave pass this year. Like I think they will. It's just. It is footy and injuries happen, but like what's actually occurred there, they're going to get a leave pass. I don't think the pressure's going to be on them like it is at the Freo Football Club. So Fremantle, mate, like their expectations, and I was driving it personally, but holistically through the AFL, they just missed the top 4 last year. They seemingly go well. They make additions to the side. Not much changes negatively. You know, like, yes, I had to go at moving on role players. I thought that was important to have them at the footy club, but in the end, other teams have done that and gone well. So they bring in a couple of players to the side. They're not the footy club. Well, they're not the team they were last year. Like just
miles
watching,
off it. They're miles off it.
Miles away. So the pressure's going to come really hard at the Freo Dockers.
Absolutely, and it starts on Friday against the Gold Coast Suns because they go 1 and 4. It's a long way back. I will challenge you on the Eagles getting a leave pass this year because I think when it comes down to it, if there is more injuries to the likes of Luke Shuey, Nick Natanui doesn't play much, they're going to have to move those players on or they'll retire. I think that's
yeah, but I just think if they don't get injured, those sorts of players, Shuey, McGovern, Natanui, if they're all playing, right?
That's a massive...
No, listen to what I'm about to say. If they're all playing and they finish bottom 2, then the heat comes. If they finish bottom 2 now, they're getting a leave pass. No, we didn't have our senior players there. You can't deny that.
What I deny is that if these guys aren't putting together footy this year of long, the record in the last 3 or 4 years says they aren't, and that's Natanui, Shuey, McGovern's obviously.
I just think there's less pressure with those guys out there for the footy club. There is. There's less pressure.
Well, that pressure gets transferred into making the calls of which Shuey, Natanui, retirement. That becomes very...
I don't think they're going to do a Hawthorn, though. I don't think they can move every senior player on the list and get rid of them, and then you've just got a bunch of young guys running around. I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't know. I think the pressure will build because if they're having a bad year, I think last year Eagle supporters were, taken aback quite significantly, but this year, I think... Yeah, injuries not aside, if they get smashed by 12 to 14 goals regularly, they want to see more from the team that's out there because they've got these guys coming in, guys like Connor West. Is he up to it? Greg Clark, is he up to it? These are guys that are getting chances. Xavier O'Neill when he comes into the side again. Have they got enough depth to even be competitive?
Fremantle, you hearing any whispers about anything at Fremantle?
Well, you must be because you just brought it up.
I'm just wondering if you've heard any whispers. Well, just hearing very, very, very faint whispers. Just around, if they continue to go the way they are, I don't know if things are going to stay the same at that football club. Just as a whisper. I can't give anything more than that, Skeet.
Are we talking about player-wise or coaching-wise?
Well, you can do the maths. You've always been a mathematical man.
The coach already under the pump.
Well, I would think
he just
so, yeah.
re-signed.
Well, there you go. That's just a faint whisper. I haven't said anything. You've just said it. I haven't said anything.
Oh, hang on. You can just put the grade out there, but you
Seed sowed. Seed sowed. Seed has been sown. Is that the saying? Sow your seed? Is that what it is?
So you're saying. Seed sowed.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter FootyCast. Let's get into the teams and the games. Adelaide defeat Fremantle by 39 points. Highly disappointing. 1-3 Fremantle Dockers. They come into this year. They should have been 6-0. I was right. I'm not wrong. I was right.
You're right, were you?
They should have been 6-0.
A lot of shoulds and ifs to start your Shelter FootyCast.
The schedule that they had, they shouldn't have been 1-3, and they are, and they're a shadow of what they were last year. And so the reasons for that, the biggest reason is their ball movement. And we heard Justin Longmuir speak after this game. Ball movement starts in the midfield. Ball movement shouldn't start in the back line, right? So I speak a bit about the back line being the gatekeepers of ball movement, and that's speed of ball movement, and they are. But as a football club, you don't want to be starting your ball movement from the back line. You want to be starting it in the middle of the centre bounce, going forward.
Winning it, going
and then
forward.
defending behind it. That's what plan A is for Freo. And they're not getting it done in the middle. So you look at their stats from the weekend. Brayshaw had a bunch. Sarong had a bunch. And then nothing. There's a huge
Gulf.
depth.
Yeah.
So Brodie gets dropped, plays in the waffle, which
37 touches.
I can understand. But you take him out, who's replaced Will Brodie is like, he in my mind is the third midfielder. So if he comes out, who's replaced him? Is it O'Meara? Is it Aish? Is it, these sorts of names were midfielders 4 and 5 behind Mundy last year, and Brodie. Brodie was 4, and then they had 5, 6, 7. Now they've got 2, and who's 3, 4, 5? I don't know who they are.
Yeah, it's concerning because Aisha, I think, had a role early on Laird and trying to nullify his influence. On the weekend, Darcy, I thought, was more than capable of getting his hands on the footy, and so
he's having a good year.
Brayshaw, Sarong, as you said, getting the footy. So why isn't it happening for Fremantle? Why aren't they able to?
Brayshaw had 14 touches in the last quarter.
So that dressed it up a bit.
So he had 15 or something up to three-quarter time.
Yeah, so that probably disguises maybe a few flaws there. Look, even though they're getting the numbers up, those two players we mentioned, they're still not nowhere near, I don't think, having the influence that they did.
Last week's Sarong's game was his best game of the year, and he looked, he was breaking and damaging out of. But Brayshaw didn't look amazing last week, and hasn't looked amazing. He was MVP of the league last year, and you certainly the textbook says you're not meant to go backwards coming off an MVP year and getting a year older in the system. But
by the same token, as you would know, it doesn't automatically just happen. If you put in the work, which I'm sure those guys do, sometimes
it's mental, mate. You're pretty much nail on head here. It doesn't just happen.
No.
And I think, Justin Longmuir alluded to it. I think that they're expecting it to happen. And Justin's words, to the fact were, we need to stop thinking about what happened last year and who we were as a team then and what happened.
Do you think they've lingered and maybe not that they had a glorious year, but do you think
that's what expectation
they
is?
Thought progression
well,
would
that's
just
what expectation
happen
is.
automatically,
and that's external and internal. That's what expectation is. It's like, well, we went last year. We should go well this year. You still have to. You have to.
And other teams are going to improve.
Yeah. So look, I mean, they've been really disappointing. It's not season over, and it's not like they can't turn it around, but they've got to drastically change things.
They lose on Friday. I know you said you're not tipping them again for the rest of the year.
I said I'm not picking Freo again. I said I'm not picking them, and they're saying until they can prove me wrong.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm picking against Freo for the rest of the year. But if they go and beat Brisbane, I'll start picking them again.
Yeah,
your team, Brisbane.
Not going that bad.
Yeah, correct. Pearce has had 3 kicked on him by Walker, so he's a little bit out of touch. I thought the West Coast key forwards touched them up a bit last week.
Yeah.
So Cox is probably in that boat as well.
Luke Ryan doesn't look fit to me.
No, but he's been one of their.
But he looks like he even said during the week, I think on Wild Water Sports, he was touch and go playing. Might have been against the Crows because this back's gone through the pre-season, and I don't know if you've had the back issues in your
back's the
pretty average.
Last thing you want to have trouble with because it affects your whole body, your legs, and your back. And Travis Kelce's probably got something to say about that.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
Slow down.
Well, it does.
Dan, mind you, picked West Coast yesterday, so
he's just spilled his coffee all over the equipment over the back there, so he started well today. Now, what was I going to say? Rankin and Rochelle. If we just talk about Adelaide, that combo.
But their forward line's almost the best in the business. When you think of Walker, albeit at the back end, Riley Thilthorpe, who's I can't believe he's not playing every week. Every time I see him, he looks dangerous, can get up the ground. They've got a very and Rankin's a small forward All-Australian at the moment.
Yeah, and they didn't have Fogarty on the weekend. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what's probably keeping Thilthorpe out is Fogarty, Walker, Thilthorpe. Is that too
and
tall?
Gallant played on the weekend, and he showed a fair bit of promise, I would have thought. So they're blessed.
I'm just pissed off with myself, right? I do fantasy, I do Supercoach, I do all that. I spoke to Scott Burns in the preseason here. I spoke to him for 20 minutes about their team, just trying to get a bit of insight. Scott Burns is the assistant coach at Adelaide. He said, watch Rankin and Rochelle this year. We got them playing in combo through the middle of the ground. People think that Rochelle is just a small forward. He's a pure mid this year, basically. And I didn't put him in my team, and I don't know why, because he's been he's been one of the biggest improvers in the AFL this year, and he's coupled with Rankin, who'd be All-Australian right now. So, look, they've got a lot of upside, and I've got to be honest, I didn't see it in them, so good on him.
No, I think to go back a fraction, pre-season we saw, albeit...
I was more impressed with Adelaide than I was Port, I will say that.
I didn't see Adelaide at close quarters. You might have had a decent look at them. No, I think... I had them as improvers, but they might go a little further than what I thought. They might be, knocking on the door for the 8.
Did you pick Freo?
I picked Freo.
Yeah, so did I. Last time. Not going to happen. Melbourne defeat...
No, I picked Adelaide, sorry. I picked Adelaide. Yeah, I did pick Adelaide. Seriously, yeah.
Got one right.
A few ones, yeah.
Melbourne defeat West Coast by 63 points. Look, it was a result that was expected, but the 63... Is that about the line?
That's about par. I think the line was about 49.50.
I think anything more would have been disappointing. Anything less, you start getting into areas of like they challenge them. But realistically, Melbourne were challenged in the first half. They looked under pressure. I was calling on radio up the chimney, so they just kept giving these handballs up the chimney. The pressure was immense by West Coast. And when they review this game, they'll look at this game in halves. First half, this is the blueprint. With the squad that we have out there, we need to put high amounts of pressure on the comp. We need to move the ball aggressively and quickly, and we're going to have goals scored against us. But we're going to score goals as well. The second half, they don't put the pressure on required. They don't move the footy as aggressively as they should have.
Skill execution drops away. All the above.
And they still get the goals scored against them, and it looks poor. So they're the two halves of West Coast.
Yeah, and look, to be honest, that's why they are players that aren't first picked. Because they don't have the ability to maintain that. And that's not a knock on some of those players, but you're right, they showed a fair bit in the first half. I think, though, just watching Melbourne live, they are so good around the contest. Once
the spread,
they feel they've got
the spread,
the control of the ball, they go, and they go quickly, and they're almost impossible to stop. I mean, in terms of what I've seen this year, they and Collingwood probably as good as anyone, and Collingwood's probably elite in that department as well.
It's the moment. I've spoken about it before. So Melbourne and Collingwood in the competition right now are reacting the best in the moment, and that's defensively and offensively. So offensively, it's that moment when you think you can win the footy, and they're just gone. And if you don't react well defensively, like West Coast weren't, see you later.
Yep.
I will say though, the vulnerability of Melbourne was shown in that first half against real pressure. So if you're a side that wants to beat Melbourne, you bring pressure for 4 quarters, you might win.
But that's the same with any team, isn't it?
Correct. Exactly right. So it's simple.
But that being said, look,
game.
Petrarca very slow to start, but got rolling.
Oliver was dominant.
Oliver,
throughout.
As always. I mean, they've got a lot of players that, they capture your attention. I mean, Brodie Grundy with no Max Gawn there.
What about West Coast? It was good. I thought Elliot Yeo was good for West Coast. Tim Kelly was outstanding.
He gets, if you're doing the club champion votes from the weekend, he picks
36 touches, maximum. 700 metres game, 2 goals. I did call that on radio, by the way.
He did make his prediction. Scully, one of the blokes, to blow his own trumpet. I'm happy to blow your trumpet, but just let us do it. Let me praise you before you actually jump in and give yourself, the pat on the back, because I can do it for you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to give you that.
I've got no doubt that you can blow a good trumpet, mate.
Hey, Tim Kelly, for what the criticism he's copped, let's be honest, over the last 2 or 3 years, a club champion award just takes a bit of that heat off a bloke, doesn't it?
I would have thought he's
done enough.
He's been the last 2 years. He's been West Coast best midfielder. Yeah. So what are you meant to do?
Yeah, I know, but people are still going back to Tim Kelly's been a disaster.
They're more reflective of the trade. And again, I've said this before. That's not on Tim Kelly.
No,
that's on the footy club. That's on the recruiting department. That's on the people that do the contracts. And I think it's pretty fair to say that West Coast came out of that worse than Geelong. Geelong won that trade. But you can see the reasons that West Coast did it. They're trying to double down in 2019 and win another flag, and they didn't get it done. So that's how footy goes. You either get it right or you get it wrong, and they got it wrong.
Yeah, and I asked you this on radio yesterday. How did it take them a year or too long to start going down the youth path and rebuild?
No, absolutely not. No, because no team in the history of AFL has won a premiership and thought they might rebuild.
No, that's 18. We're now in 2023.
Yeah,
I'm saying 2 years ago or a year ago. What is there a lag time? I understand in 19 and 20 you still got those senior players. I just wonder whether the 18 flag, that's 5 years ago now. And 19, I understand going again. But there was obviously signs in after that. And
they traded away all their picks for those 2 years.
Yeah. Well,
so,
that doesn't. And what we've seen with them getting those picks back by finishing lowly last year is
the boy.
Yeah, you got Jimby, you got Hewitt, you've got. It's actually not the. It's going to happen again this year.
Yeah, they've been bereft of young talent, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's what they need. If they can get 2 or 3 more in next season, and maybe snag a free agent somewhere to give them, because he's going to be. I think one of either Shuey or Nat Nui will retire. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah,
one or the other. Am I being a bit harsh?
No, you can say what you like.
No, but realistic.
Yeah, I just don't think they're doing the Hawthorn thing. So
no,
maybe
I'm saying the body. And look,
yeah,
Chewy's played 17 last year. He might come back and play the rest of the season.
I certainly think it'd just be frustrating, right?
Totally.
As you're trying to do your role. And, well, yeah, less about fault and just more, if your role is to get out in the field every week and you're not, it'd be bloody frustrating.
Oh,
right?
yeah, and that's just your body not giving you the run you want.
Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter FootyCast.
Before we go any further.
Oh, boy.
I've got a little gift for you.
Thank you.
Saw this on Twitter.
Hello, Dan.
Sir Swamp, a guy, Andrew Gigax with a Z at the end on Twitter.
Shout out.
Fun footy fact. This was the West Coast Melbourne game. This was the 100th 63-point margin in AFL history or VFL AFL history. The last 3 have all been lost by West Coast at Perth Stadium. So 2022 Sydney, they lost by 63. 2022 Carlton, they lost by 63, and on the weekend 63 Melbourne at Perth Stadium.
Can you? I love it. Can you tell me what I'm meant to do with that information?
Just enjoy it.
He's a genius, a freak. Yes. I know you're on Twitter asking him questions every second day.
Well, we had him on BackChat, and we asked him, like, how do you actually do what you're doing?
So this isn't even Sir Swamp. This is just a guy that's like.
Oh,
it's just a random guy who's come up with that.
Wow,
it's not even Sir Swamp.
You reckon I need to get a life? No, shout out to him, by the way.
Well, I think you're right. Rest of the round, let's get into it. Brisbane defeat Collingwood by 33 points on Thursday night.
Seems a long time ago, Scully.
Who did you pick, mate?
I decided that Brisbane deserved one more chance at the Gabba. In fact, I'm not, just as you're not tipping Fremantle again, yes. I'm not tipping against Brisbane at the Gabba again until I'm proven wrong.
Good. So they stood up. They're the best team in the comp again now.
Charlie Cameron and John Denver, Country Road, Take Me Home. Big Joey involved, looked engaged. That's a frustration.
What do we expect out of Joe Danaher? He's literally been in the league 10 years and he's done this every game. Sometimes he's good. Sometimes he's amazing. He looks like he's going to win the Coleman. Sometimes he's shite.
But most of the time, it seems to happen when away from home as a team, as a collective. Why do you accept that?
Well, it's just how he is. I don't have to accept it.
As a team.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, it probably exemplifies a little bit what Brisbane's been a little bit about, right? Did they miss one when the bubble and the COVID hub was in Brisbane? Like, should they have won, that flag? Like, was that their opportunity to...
Well, I'm sure Simo's thinking the same thing, and the Dockers when they had the grand final here. Should we have
but they had a whole season in Queensland, basically, and they still couldn't get it done. So, I haven't picked them for the premiership this year.
Who did you pick again?
I thought you were a trumpet blower.
I'm giving you one here.
Yeah, I picked Geelong, Skeeter. All right. Have I fallen
you're
off?
So confident.
Well, fuck me. Like, do you want me to go? I just think that maybe, Geelong are going to win the flag. Okay, you want me to go through them?
No, I want to change tack here because I want to touch on, I mentioned this to you before, Nick Daicos, and again, this is social media, and we've just heard a really fascinating stat about the 63 points. He's copping a lot of heat over the weekend about...
Is that one contest?
One contest. And it went on and on and on, and people are just tearing him to shreds. Is this normal?
Well, it's normal for social media. It's an absolute junkyard sometimes. But just to speak through that actual action, right? If you don't know what we're talking about, just jump on social media and Google Nick Daicos, and there'll be
plenty.
People are saying he pulled out of a contest, right? So he's running in the middle of the ground. There's 3 Brisbane players running at him, and the ball's bouncing towards them, right? So the actual dynamics of that situation, a ball rolling away from you, it's like an away ground ball is what you call it, is the hardest ground ball to take. Coming at you, you get the momentum, you hit it hard, and if you put your hands in the right spot, it comes in clean. Like that's a ground ball. When it's running away, you have to stay down over it. You have to increase your speed to catch it, and you also have to worry about what's coming at you.
And also worry about if you're going towards an opponent now with front-on contact,
Correct.
all the above.
Right, so there's a lot of things to take into mind. Just breaking down this incident, right? So he's coming at 3 players. The thing about Nick Daicos, who I was going nuts on social media, why isn't someone tagging this bloke? Like, no one touches him on the field, which is another story. I don't know why people aren't just smashing him. He's not big. Bash the bloke.
Got to catch him.
Genuinely, yeah, just bash him, mate. Bash him behind the play. You know, as in, like, put elbows into him. No one touches him, mate. No one touches him. I don't mean King hit him. I mean, be physical. Be physical. Anyway, this moment, right? This is what's going through his head. He's got 3 players coming. He's worried about that. He's worried about taking the ball clean. He's worried about the reporting stuff. He's worried about where he's going to go with the ball next. He's got about 50 things going on in his head. But what makes Nick Daicos good is he's already 2 steps ahead of anyone else. That's what actually makes him a good player. He reacts faster. He makes his decisions before people can. That's what makes him a good player. He's not this like beast that runs through people. That's not Nick Daicos. Nick Daicos, that's not him, right? But as he gets to the ball, he's already made the decision that he's spinning and he's going to give a handball. That's what he's doing. And because it's rolling away, he gets it wrong by like 5 centimetres, maybe less, and it looks like he's pulling out of it. He's not pulling out of it. He's not scared of
I
getting
can guarantee you, every one of those trollers who are having a crack at Nick Daicos, whatever team they barrack for, if they said Nick Daicos is coming to your club, they would take him in a heartbeat.
The social media pile-on was just ridiculous over that incident. But the social, like, I just tag the bloke. Someone tag him. Please tag him.
Can I say this? I'm suggesting that Ross Lyon this week will be assigning somebody to. We'll talk about that Thursday, but
He'll be getting
Collingwood. I don't think they've lost too much. The Jack Crisp thing on Friday, Thursday, did that affect the group? I got no idea. I think you know what? I just think they got beaten by a good side up in Brisbane. They'd won their first 3. Collingwood, they were on pretty good terms with themselves, and they got beaten by a side that is a 5-goal better team on their own deck.
Very good. I agree with you. Carlton defeat North Melbourne by 23 points. I think we both picked Carlton. I would have thought so.
Both picked Carlton. I said that the 2 big boys would have, I think, 14 shots at goal and could kick 11-3 or 3-11.
They had 10 goals between them. Kerno Mackay, so I think you're on the money. Carlton's best start since 1995, Skeeter.
And that was the year David Parkin and the all-conquering Blues
beat Geelong in the grand final.
Thumped Geelong in the grand final, didn't they? It's good to see. I'm not sure if you've got much sympathy or any affection for Carlton, but it is great for the competition to see a big club get back and play good footy.
Melbourne clubs, though, like Carlton, St Kilda, having a good start to the year on top of the ladder.
Collingwood and Melbourne. How good's Queen's birthday going to be, for
instance? It's a very good call. The Sheasel starts and plays well again, 37 touches. Talking about social media stuff, there was a bit of stuff about how he gets his touches. He's playing a lot out of the goal square. He's probably getting an extra 10 touches from kicking in, but I don't know. That's the game. Like there's half-back flankers on every team that have the exact same opportunity to play the way he's playing.
37.
No, correct. So he's a good player. It's his role. It's his role in the team to be the distributor, and that's what he's doing, and he's doing it well. I don't know if you can argue against it. You look at someone like Ruben Jinby, who was quiet in the game the weekend. He's in and under and cold-face type player, but that's his role. He's not going to have 37 doing that. So you need to look at the role they're playing. I think Sheasel's playing his role really well. I think Jimby's playing his role really well as well. And Marcus Ashcroft, the other nominee, I'm not sure who this week is. I don't know who it will be, but Ashcroft's been very good.
They're top 3 or 4 you've named. 49,000, by the way, at Marvel. Biggest crowd at the venue for 10 years.
Wow.
Carlton being involved helps that Good Friday appeal match. North Melbourne, I think, deserves to keep it. So
it was competitive. I remember this time last year, Carlton spanked him and was saying, take it off him. It was a competitive game.
The Bulldogs was that last year or the 2 years before? Anyway, the Bulldogs were involved at one point. They've been piffed.
Yeah, but North Melbourne were...
Yes.
But that summarised that they've been shithouse for a while now.
Yeah, totally.
I think keep it with them. They do a good job socially, growing the game and raising money for a good cause. So I don't think that's a discussion anymore. We both picked Carlton. Western Bulldogs defeat Richmond.
You're upset. Got it right. Did well.
Yes. This was my roughie of the week for Bottle Mart. All right, thank you very much. We'll get to your roughie of the week a bit later, Skater. Western Bulldogs defeat Richmond by 5 points. Good game. Really good game.
Yeah, and a bit of rain around, so it sort of, I thought, played into the hands of Richmond
It was
the
a
way they played
strange
footy. But it was, the match was, if you looked at the way the game was played out, dominating was the Bulldogs until early in the second quarter, then bang, Richmond.
They kicked 8 goals in the second quarter, Richmond.
15 minutes or less.
Richmond kicked 2 goals in the second half. So they
Yeah.
kicked 8 in the second quarter, 2 goals in the second half.
What they got absolutely creamed in was Richmond, was the contested footy, and blokes like
clearances.
Liberatore and Bond. They were terrific, the Bulldogs. That, in fact, was what got them to a flag in 2016, was it? That type of form.
28 clearances between Bontempelli, Liberatore and Treloar. So I don't know if West Coast had 28 clearances
So
on the weekend.
what's Taranto and Hopper been brought to the club for then?
Yeah, it's a very good point.
No, and Lynch has gone now. Revolt didn't play. Cochin. It is a changing of the guard at Richmond, and I can see this unravelling for them in terms of, I can see them missing the 8 and having a pretty tough year the longer the season
Think
goes.
about the questions you were asking about West Coast, right? Like, did they not pull the trigger on their senior players?
Yeah.
And so Richmond come off the back of 3 premierships, so I don't think you can really criticise that. And
No, not
missed
at all.
another grand final in 2018 by having a poor game in a prelim. So, like, they've done it.
They played finals last year.
Yeah.
They should have almost won against Brisbane.
Yeah, but that's what West Coast did, right? They played finals and didn't get it done. Are they going to go off a cliff, though, because they've gone out and they didn't get Hopper and Taranto for free? They gave up draft picks for that, right?
Of course. Look, as you said, the difference is that Richmond did win 3 in a row. I think you're prepared to take almost a decade in the wilderness if you've got 3 in the bank in a row.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. Tom Lynch was a big moment in this game. 2 of them, actually. First one is he'll be going straight to the MRP. Is that what it is? MRO?
Tribunal. Straight to the tribunal.
Sorry. So he was adjudged for his hit on Alex Keith to be deliberate, high in nature.
All the assessments
high metrics
went into the area of tribunal. So you can't argue on that front.
You seen the incident?
I did, and I looked at it with Carl Langdon a couple of times, and we were a bit different to you. I had a bit more sympathy for him, and look, not a huge Tom Lynch fan, not a Richmond supporter. I wasn't totally convinced that it was an intentional act, given that Keith was concussed, missed the rest of the game. I get it.
Keith was coming back with a flight, if you haven't seen it. Tom Lynch coming out to mark, and he was sort of behind his opponent, and the opponent ends up marking the ball. Lynch goes past his opponent, and I think completely shirt fronts Alex Keith straight in the head. So
I disagree.
Shirt
front.
Well, I don't know how else to describe it when Keith is clearly coming back at the footy. It's a quick game, but Lynch gets him high and gets him straight in the face.
I get all that. I looked at the replay and his eyes were on the ball until the last second. Then he turned his body.
In the end, doesn't matter. He's broken his foot. He's having surgery. So
So while we're on that, Harry Mackay, just quickly going back to him in the Carlton game, copping a week on the hit on Sheasel. I think he should challenge it.
I think he should challenge it. It was clumsy.
Yeah,
but that's
he
why
played on, got up, played on. I don't know.
There's this. I think it should be action based. So, does that action have the ability to cause real harm? I don't think so. He wasn't running fast enough. It looked really stupid and clumsy. I'm not quite sure what he was trying to do.
No.
But Harry Mackay's over 200 centimetres tall and Sheasel's not. Sheasel's small. And he's running at him with like 2 clenched fists. It was like Vulcan in Gladiator in the gauntlet, mate. I don't know what he was doing.
Russian dancers when they do the.
So, look, I hope he doesn't get a week, but he may do. But they're going to challenge it.
I would challenge. I'd roll the dice.
But Richmond aren't, because Lynch will be in surgery, and so he'll get what he gets, and it probably will have no effect on anything. Norton kicks 3. I thought he was very good in wet conditions. And Tim English, he's the best ruckman in the competition at the moment. Very, very, very clear All-Australian ruckman right now. Sean Darcy has been good also, but Tim English is a stage above everyone, and I think I sort of reflect back on a few years ago, people were laughing at him whether or not he could be a ruckman in the AFL. He was skinny.
He was so skinny.
He had a shocking haircut, still does a little bit, which is very rich from me. But he is a man now, and he dominates.
But even interviewing him when he was just drafted to the Bulldogs, you could tell in brief that once he got some.
Yeah, he's like a puppy. He's like a puppy.
And such a gentle young kid. Once he got some meat on the bones, I wasn't like one of those who thought he won't make it. as you say, and you often say, and we all know, ruckman and big players take a little bit longer to develop for several reasons.
It's just very rare you get a Josh Kennedy that comes in and can do, or Buddy Franklin. But even Buddy Franklin and Jared Ruffhead, these sorts of guys,
you forget the first year or two, don't you? They're sort of still finding their feet.
Correct. So you pick Richmond, I think.
I tipped the Tigers, and I won't tip them again the rest of the year.
St Kilda defeat Gold Coast by 53 points. Oh, mate, like two sides of the coin here. How good is St Kilda? Let's start positively. Like Ross Lyon,
Coach
what
of
he's
the year
done.
after a month. He's easily coach of the year.
4-0.
He's a genius. We talk about what's missing at West Coast.
Yeah. What?
Well, St Kilda's list is decimated equally as much, I would have thought.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah, no, I'll give you
this
that.
way. And okay, let's go through their victories. Over Fremantle,
Yeah.
their form doesn't suggest they're playing that great a footy.
Yeah.
They got Essendon last week. They got Gold Coast, and there was another one in there as well. Who they
Do you think I know who it is?
the fourth? Anyway, they won their 4 matches. They got a good percentage.
It's their best start since 2010.
And he was in
They
charge
were
back then.
Grand finalists back in 2010. So
the drawn grand final year.
you look at, it's just they're on top of the ladder. First time since 2009.
They'll play finals.
Only team to be. They almost
They're
have to.
that far away from being on statistically.
Which is crazy. Which is just I think crazy for the side they had last year, for what they did last year, for the players they lost. There was no hope. No one in the country picked them to finish top 8.
This is purely in my mind, and I'm not a huge Ross Lyon fan. This is down to him. He has to take complete responsibility for. Well, he has to.
Let me just read to you the goal scorers for St Kilda, right? Which is this is the most incredible part, I think, about what they're doing. So Higgins kicks 5. He's a good player, but he hasn't been a superstar yet. He kicks 5. Hill kicks 2. Kimintidi. What is it? Go on, hero.
How do you spell it?
Who knows? 2 goals to him. Owens 2. Windhager 1. Sinclair 1. Ross 1. Philippou
Just
1.
random goal
Cordy
kickers.
1.
Scoring by committee, it's called, apparently.
Butler 1. Like, it's just, I don't, you probably walk past that group of players in the street and you wouldn't recognise anyone.
We wouldn't.
Which is fine.
I did watch some of the game.
Which is a good thing.
And Gold Coast
Positive.
looked competitive early, but St Kilda able to just slice through their defence too easily at times. So full credit to them.
It's almost like we've seen this. It's like a repeating record. Like what do you have to do at Gold Coast to get them to be competitive? They're not even competitive. They started well for 10 minutes and then they're just. St Kilda were never losing that game.
We've seen that movie so many times from the Gold Coast, and they beat Geelong, who are going half rat power at the moment and really struggling last week. And credit, they got the job done there. But yeah, that was their chance, I thought, Scully, to maybe make a statement. And
Gold Coast have never had a Ross Lyon or a Brad Scott or a credentialed coach coming. I mean, Rodney Eade, you probably could say.
Rocket
probably was going bananas by that stage. I think they probably missed their chance. They re-signed Stuart Dew last year. Is that right? They probably missed their chance to get Nathan Buckley to get a.
Trust me, if they have a 5 or 6 win season this year, whether it's Nathan Buckley, whether it's Ken Hinkley, whether it's
they have to have someone that. Like, this is no disrespect to Stuart Dew, but he hasn't been a head coach that's had great success. He hasn't done that, and he's never had the opportunity to. They need someone who's done that.
How many years has he been there? 5?
Yeah, correct.
5 years?
Something like that. So, I just think you can't question it. They don't know how to win. They have no winning culture.
The culture is important, and I think
they have no
there's
winning
no
culture.
pressure. We've gone over this. They'll go back to
You picked Gold Coast. Did you pick Gold Coast?
No, that was my roughie. I actually selected in the paper
Bottom Art Roughie.
St Kilda, my bottom art roughie. Okay. And once again, as we go to the next game, I'm never selecting Gold Coast again.
Port Adelaide defeat Sydney by 2 points. Now, this one, Skeeter, a nice little new segment, thanks to Thirsty Camel, the clanger of the weekend. I want to speak about this first off the top. So don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shelters from Thirsty Camel. Thirsty Camel are on board just to pick out a clanger or two from the weekend. We're not going to go, just to explain this, we're not going to go
regulation.
Tim Kelly missed a kick going inside 50. That's not a clanger. We're talking about maybe a little bit more analytical, but maybe a little bit of a little bit of quirk.
Could be some of the commentary from you or I yesterday on radio. You could take a gamut. I actually called a bloke from Melbourne who wears number 23.
What'd you call him? See if you get it right.
Jordan James, when his name's James Jordan. And I should know, number 23, they gave him the name Jordan as he said. Anyway.
You said it 5 times?
Yeah, I did. And, you know,
Jordan James kept rolling it out, keep getting corrected, kept rolling it out. Jeez, it was funny. You're very good though, Skeeter, one of the best in the business. So if you did you and I stuffing up at commentary, it'd be clangers of the weekend, but this is the clanger of the weekend. Thanks to Thirsty Camel. Don't run out of your favourites. Grab your shelters at Thirsty Camel. Who have we got? It's in this game.
Well, we're going to go with
a moment.
A number of people that we can group into this. It's called Premature Celebration.
Yes.
I had that and I had twin daughters off the back of it. But there's Premature Celebration at the SCG on Saturday night. Ollie Florent kicking what would have been the winning goal from long range, and the camera shot that we had from 7 had all the Sydney Swan supporters.
Again, this is the same. It was the same shot as Buddy.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. It was the same person.
It's almost like it was just outside the toilet and just making sure like you know NYPD Blue where they have that sort of one.
So let's talk about the clangers here, right? So it was Ollie Florent kicking the goal after the siren to win the game. It comes off the boot. Someone stands up in front of the camera. So the camera, so Channel 7, you can have a clanger. Isaac Heaney, you can have Ollie Florent, you could have a hanger. He's celebrated like how Hayden Ballantyne did in the Derby.
That's right.
Someone's jumping on and hugging him on the ground while the ball's still in the air. Isaac Heaney, you can have a clanger. He's celebrated. He's on the goal line. As soon as it comes off the boot, he starts sprinting out to Ollie Florent. He came off the goal line directly where the ball crossed, so he wasn't there to shepherd it over. He thought it was a goal. Who else can have a clanger? There was someone else.
Half the fans at that end. Which, to be fair, when you're behind the kick, and we've all seen it go, this is going all the way, and then it falls short. You sort of have to go back to being subdued.
Channel 7 didn't put the replay on for about 7 minutes, and I was like, please play the goal line replay.
To see how close.
So pretty much it was only Buddy on the line. There was about 5 pork guys. It was pretty poor by
no clanger from Aliir.
He was probably best on ground. He saved multiple goals in the second half off his own doing. And then he was there, the man to jump. He jumped through Buddy to stop that ball. It was close. It was sort of almost half a ball from being across the line. So
that's a big win for them because I was
huge
paying
win,
attention to it. They were down, I think, might have been 4.5, 5 goals to nothing. They couldn't kick a goal in the first quarter.
They wanted Hinkley's head.
Yeah, and after the showdown, the only thing that going into the game I gave them a bit of a chance was because they'd won their past 5 or 6. Certainly the past 5 against Sydney Swans. So they had a reasonable record against them. That's a massive win for them because, as you say, they were feeling the heat. Ken Hinkley on the boundary, you could see what it meant to him.
Totally. He looked relieved. Our boy Charlie Dixon over at BackChat, one of the best interviews we've put together. If you want to go and listen to that, go type Charlie Dixon BackChat into Google somewhere. He was outstanding in the last quarter. They put him into the ruck. They put Scott Lycett on the bench and they let him go to work. He created 3 of their last goals, either by effort or clearances or blocks or kicks or whatever. But he also lost them the lead with 2 minutes to go. Sydney got a free kick on the wing. The ball had rolled forward. Charlie was the loose man in defence. He went to kick it back to the player from Sydney, and he kicked it over his head by about 30 metres. I don't know if he was.
He has those moments, doesn't he?
I don't know if he was deliberately doing it but he just got it, and he literally it was Blakey, and kicked it over his head by 30 metres, 50 metres, goal, put Sydney in front. But then the very next centre clearance, he got up, tapped it down, followed it up, broke through 4 tackles, got it going forward, and they kicked a goal from that play. So
Finlayson, who had a good night.
Yeah, it was pretty touching seeing him getting interviewed after the game. Of course, his partner's got
his wife,
terminal cancer, unfortunately, which is just horrific. But he does the match winner. So it was a good game in the end. Port Adelaide, Sydney. Who'd you pick?
I picked Sydney, but I backed Port at the line of plus 19.5. So if you get some love,
no one cares about your bank balance, mate. Essendon defeat GWS by 13 points. In a pretty good game, it must be said, under the dome. Essendon have started really bloody well.
Yeah, the goal kicking yesterday was horrendous under the roof, but that's you're winning matches, you're getting enough looks. That's something Brad Scott will take out of it. Jake Stringer, I think 4-6 for the afternoon.
You're going to take that from him. Look,
10 scoring shots, and even though he probably should have had 7-3,
yes,
absolutely. If you're getting that many opportunities,
he did a torp on the run, Stringer. Like, he's such a rogue player, isn't he? He just comes out. And it's like he's just playing beating his own drums type things. Like no one does that anymore. He got the ball, just started running it towards goal, did a tort, went straight through the middle of the goals. And then he probably had a shot from 10 metres out and kicked it out in the full. He's that sort of guy.
One of those players, he's had an interrupted pre-season, hamstrings, etc. But he's important to the Essendon side, no question.
There was an interesting one in this game. So Dyson Heppel,
sub.
former captain of the club, his form's been in question to start the year. He was subbed out last week, and there was sort of the social media footage of him getting on the phone to Brad's going, what the fuck? What are you talking about? This week, he gets named in the squad, and not just squad, he gets named on the field in starting 22. Late change from a Scott, so it's genetic between those two. Chris and Brad Scott love just pulling out stupid late changes. It pisses me off. It actually does. Overall, this issue, I think it needs to be addressed. Like, I don't see why we can't just say who's injured and what's wrong with them. And there's too much on the line now. There's betting, there's marketing dollars, fans are going to see the game, there's fantasy footy, like there's a lot of money and things on the line here. You can't just start pulling players out for no reason, because they would have known. They would have known what they were doing. So what they did, Heppel's 22, they late change him. Phillips comes into the side as a ruckman, so it completely changes the dynamic of their team. This is why they did it.
Yep.
And then Heppel comes out, not out of the squad, but into as a sub. So they don't drop him. He's not injured. They're just making a tactical change late. I think it's borderline. It's not cheating, but it's manipulating the game.
I think a few coaches
I can understand why, but it's like, I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, a few coaches have commented on this, and even Brad Scott, I think, has addressed the fact that maybe the AFL has to, he said it. He's
addressing his own decisions.
Well, but if the rules are there, if he's allowed to do it, why wouldn't you? Every coach will exploit the rule to their advantage if possible. I don't blame them.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't. I can
can
understand as well, but it's just bad. It's a bad look on the game, mate.
It's hard enough
because they're clearly,
hard enough for Jack and I to work out who the sub is, let alone work out.
Well, we had
anyway. Yeah, I'll take another whack.
Yeah, correct. Look, I think how this is fixed during the week. We say who's injured. We say what's wrong with them. We say how many weeks in. Yeah, we make that industry wide. NFL does it, right? The NFL does it.
Inactive.
Either inactive, and some of them have question marks going into the weekend. But you know that they're a question mark.
So what is general soreness? You tell me what general soreness is.
But that's fine. At least you know that they're in doubt. So right now, no one has to say anything. Nick Nananui's got a 12-month injury, and West Coast says week to week. That's a good example.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So why don't we just say what the injury is? It doesn't matter. If they're injured, they're injured. But if everyone's doing it.
But if it's a 6-month injury, why not say that? I agree with you. Then it stops the conversation.
Because they don't have to. That's why. So why don't we just say...
It doesn't also take the heat off a club by just being honest, saying he's out for 3 months. Come back to me in 10 weeks and we'll discuss when he's almost ready to
Honesty
come back.
would go a long way in this game sometimes. So we don't have to be honest, so we just do whatever you like.
Honesty is such a lonely word, as Billy Joel once sang.
Thank you very much. Jesus Christ.
Sorry, Dan. Sitting there with your tattoos, spilling coffee everywhere.
Sitting there with your tattoos. That's been grinding Skeet's gears all year. You want to throw that out? Tell you what we should do. We should get a bet and Skeeter's got to get a tattoo at some stage. Geelong v Hawthorn. Let's do a quick preview. We didn't preview this last week.
No,
I'm looking forward to this.
17th versus 18th.
Yeah, on a Monday, get to watch footy.
Love it.
We're in here in BackChat Studios. We're going to put tools down probably, or have it on the background
have
a little
couple
bit.
Of shelters in between.
Well, I will if I'm allowed to. But yeah, correct. How do you see this game going? And would you have thought it was cellar dwellers at the start of the year? Seriously.
Oh,
well, Hawthorn, yes.
Hawthorn possibly. Geelong, Mitch Duncan comes back. He's so important to them. Jasny, Reece Stanley.
Yep.
So this is a game they'll be winning. You'd expect, but I think at times we expect like Geelong just to come out and win by 10 today. I don't see that happening just because they'll be down on confidence. There's no question about that. These matches.
Dangerfield's come out and said that in public eye. He said that we are down on confidence, and I saw some guys talking about it. I think it was Barrett and a few others say, it was Gary Lyon and Tim Watson, and they said, "How do you lose your confidence? You won the grand final by 80 points about 4 months ago. How do you go from that to having a really good game in the preseason? They dominated. They beat North, Carlton.
Even go further. Round 1 against Collingwood, they led by probably 20 points during the third quarter.
Yeah, it's interesting that they lose their confidence, right?
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I mean, confidence, it doesn't matter what you do. whether it's in your job, your personal life. Yeah, confidence is I think.
You don't just get it.
You talk about mindset.
Yeah.
I think confidence is so important to anything you do in life. And I think at Geelong at the moment, probably just maybe doubting themselves a bit more than what they ever thought they would after what they'd been through last September.
Sam Mitchell will know that, and I sort of said a few times, he'll be harping on that, and then he'll come with a plan. So the plan would be
how will he
pressure.
try and stifle the
Pressure. It's the same as what we saw West Coast first half with Melbourne. If you put Geelong under enough pressure and you can actually score off the back of it, and you put them under some scoreboard pressure, then the confidence thing comes in. Are we good enough? Are we going to lose again? Are we going to go 0-4? That all starts happening. It doesn't matter how good you are. I agree. Interestingly, so we said the ins for Geelong, the outs. Ollie Henry, so he's new to the club. He's been omitted. And Tanner Bruin, another one of these young guys that was added, omitted as well. De Koning's out with concussion, and Segler comes out for Reece Stanley. So they've got some changes. Geelong, Hawthorn don't really have any.
Look, taking the
Off the back of a win last week.
glass quarter full for Geelong, win today, Eagles next week. Life looks.
Yeah.
Mind you, we thought they beat the Gold Coast.
Yes,
That could have been. That would have made life look a bit better. But
that's what they do have on their side is experience and being able to talk within the group. You got Isaac Smith in there. You got Paddy Dangerfield. Like Isaac Smith's won a grand final or two. He knows
Superstar.
what it's like.
They were 5-4 last year. Bear that in mind. They won the next 16. I don't think they can replicate last year just because of what we're seeing. I think it's going to be. You just see, this is not just a quick fix for Geelong. I think there's probably more let's play here. But I think they'll win today.
Who picked?
You
Geelong?
have to tip Geelong.
So is it a blowout or not? I picked Geelong as well.
I can't pick a 50-60 pointer. No,
Right.
I'm thinking more in that 5-goal range.
I think it could be a bloodbath. I think it could be 80 points.
So
Geelong.
So shall I get on line? Have a
Yeah, well, that's saying you haven't already, which I know you have. That's done and dusted. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings, there's the week in review, Shelter FootyCast. Last one of the day for us, Skeeter. Shelter XPA X Factor. We've given a few of these to West Australians. This one's a clear one for me, and he hasn't got one so far, which is a bit of a shame.
TK?
Yeah. Tim Kelly, 36 touches, 703 metres gained, 2 goals. I don't know if you can do much more as a midfielder in the competition. In a losing side, he's doing everything he possibly can to make West Coast better.
I think he's almost, given the absence of Luke Shuey, who was terrific before he was injured, I think he's taken on that responsibility. I'm not sure he's been comfortable in that role, maybe.
He looks extremely fit.
Yeah.
Like the way he started games, he had 12 touches in the first quarter.
And look, his disposal efficiency in the Derby was just over 50%. It was at times yesterday a little shaky, but I'm going to also put into play here the fact that his clearance work at times was as good as you'll see.
Yep.
Against a Melbourne mid, including Oliver Petrarca, he was able to find little spaces to get the hand pass or get a kick away.
Yep.
That is as good as anything in the competition.
Yeah, I agree. So he's getting a big carton of Shelter XPA. We'll get that out to TK. I know he'll enjoy a couple of those. A couple of quiet ones, Skeeter, after the season. There you go, Timmy. Well done, mate. That's us done and dusted, Skeeter. You want to follow us on Instagram. Shelter FootyCast is where you find us there. FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. Send us an email. We might send some little random prizes out to some emails we get, or a comment on YouTube as well. Skeet, have you ever had a public holiday in your life?
Pretty rare. Well, I've got bit of today off, but yeah, it's unusual. I was up at 5 this morning doing radio here with you. It's footy season, we cop it. Let's just hope our WA teams can do something, otherwise you and I are going to be sitting here for 18 more rounds talking absolute palaver.